The Smith and Wesson M&P 2.0 has been, in my opinion, one of the most overlooked handguns on the market. Now, a long time ago, probably going back by 2 years now, I created a video on YouTube where I was showing everybody my old M&P, and it was kind of the 1.5 series. What I mean by that was that the trigger was a little bit more improved than the original M&Ps that came out, where they had no real solid reset and just a really terrible trigger. And interestingly enough, I actually owned that version, and including the newer version where they, upgraded the sear a little bit, so you had a better transition from shooting, a better reset, so on and so forth. And also they adjusted the barrel twist rate from what it was initially to a little tighter twist to get a little bit more overall accuracy. And then comes in the M&P 2.0 series, and at first I was kind of skeptical. I didn't really think it was worth it. Obviously you can see that they took away the beaver tail and shortened everything up, but it still made it a nice looking aggressive handgun with a lot of the classic lines of the old M&P series. Well, then I decided to buy one, and I was absolutely blown away just how accurate these handguns are and just how much fun they are to shoot in general. Extremely accurate, low recoil, and just overall a fantastic handgun. So let's go to the table. Let's take a look and see what I have in store for you today. Hey guys, welcome back to 1776 or Bust. So on the table you see the M&P 2.0 in 45 ACP. Now, this isn't a new gun. I actually bought this used, but I got it for a deal, and 325 barely shot. As a matter of fact, I'll just show you really quick the barrel, and you can see it's, a little bit of markings on there, and nothing, in my opinion, that would indicate a tremendous amount of use. So it looked like whoever owned it really did not use it very much, and that's fine because their loss is my gain, and I'm totally happy with that. Now, the reason why I picked this up was because I had been looking to get a 45 for some time now, and I wanted to get something that I felt was, I guess you could say adequately priced. I didn't want to spend an arm and a leg on getting a 45 because, again, 45s are not my main choice of carry weapon. I usually carry 9mm, totally happy with the modern 9mm and have no issues carrying them. However, I kept saying if I could find a good deal on a 45, I would definitely pick one up. Now, when I went to the gun shop, they had this, and they also had a Stoeger Cougar 8045, which I do like. However, that was only $275, and I said for $50 more, I really would prefer to go with this, since I am familiar with the system and the platform, being that I have, this one right here in the 4 1/4 inch, and I also have my compact, which is right now in my my gun box because I'm going to be taking that to the range tomorrow. Now, in regards to this, again, it's very classic. As a matter of fact, I'll put some information right about there. And what you're going to find is that, you have your 10+1 capacity in these magazines. So for people in New York State, you're golden with this one. Again, does it have the most capacity of any 45? Obviously, it doesn't. But, 10+1, I don't think is a bad deal for a 45 ACP. Again, your front and rear sights are steel, so that's pretty good. And it's a 3-dot sight, so it's not the best, but it's not the worst. These white dots are a little bit, I guess you could say a little bit dull, so they don't show up that well. So I'm going to test them out tomorrow and see what I think of them. In regards to, some of the basics, other than that, you have your Armonite finish on the gun. So usually the finish on the M&P 2.0 is very, very good. I have not had any issues with any of them. Again, obviously I have the Cerakoted one here. I also have the Cerakoted one by Shyworks, when they did a great job on that compact boy. But overall, the finish was never an issue with the handgun. And this one, as you can see, is almost kind of like a silky looking kind of matte finish. It's actually pretty nice. Very clean, no marks, nothing on it, even for a used handgun. Again, you have your little steel insert there, so that should hopefully, definitely mitigate some of that recoil or some of that pushback on the 45, being it's not that snappy, more of that pushing feeling. So hopefully that'll mitigate that a little bit more, and we'll see how it shoots. From what I've seen and from what people have told me, this gun shoots extremely well. If it's anything like its 9mm brothers and sisters and cousins or whatever you want to call them, then I would suspect that this is going to shoot very, very well. Now, again, you can see I've already dropped the Apex trigger in this. Again, I'm a huge fan of the Apex trigger. While I absolutely love the M&P series, I'm not a big fan of that how would you say, I guess the hinge trigger. Just don't like it. It doesn't really, work with my finger very well. Now, again, does that make a terrible gun? It really doesn't. Again, most people would say it's still a solid trigger, and I would agree. It is a decent trigger, but it definitely would need some improvement, at least in my opinion. So as a result, I always drop the apex triggers in here. It just definitely manages the gun better when you're shooting it in regards to that trigger pull. As a matter of fact, gun is clear, but you can see right here, there's very, very little take up. Very, very little take up at all. There's no mush. There's no movement after that, and it breaks. A very, very nice crisp break. You reset on the trigger. Very short. And again, a very nice crisp break after that. So the apex trigger definitely makes this into, in my opinion, probably one of the top 5 striker-fired polymer handguns on the market. Now, of course, there are going to be some detractors who say you shouldn't have to pay over $100 to put a whole new trigger set into this. It's really up to you. Again, it's going to be based upon what you think. In my opinion, if you can find this gun for a relatively good price, adding that trigger kit from Apex is a no-brainer. Again, this was $3 1/4. Even if you paid for that trigger kit, you're looking at maybe $100, depending on where you get it. So you're looking at $4 1/4 for this handgun. And honestly, guys, that's still about $100 cheaper than a Glock Gen 5 with a stock trigger. So in my opinion, you can't go wrong with that. Now, obviously, you can see I put the back strap on here. That's an FDE, which actually came from this. So as you know, it definitely will fit this. This gun weighs around 27 ounces. So again, it's not necessarily the lightest of guns, but remember, it is a 45 ACP, so it will definitely go up in weight once you put your magazine in when it's fully loaded with the 10 rounds. Again, the ejection of the magazine, if I can get it in there, is fairly good. Again, it slides right out. It's not necessarily the most positive of ejections, but it's good enough to get that magazine out of there if you need to. Again, you can see that they kind of cut or beveled out this little area here. So if you do have to work your magazine out, you have a place to actually grip and pull it out if you need to. So that's actually pretty good. Again, the stippling on the M&P 2.0 series, I don't think anybody would argue that these are actually very good aggressive grips. Some people would say they may be a little bit too overly aggressive. I don't think they're too bad. I think sometimes they could be, depending on what you're wearing. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend wearing this against your bare skin. I would definitely recommend wearing a t-shirt or some sort of undershirt so that instead of it catching your manhandles, it can actually, catch your t-shirt and destroy that first instead. So again, it's really going to be based upon what you guys think in regards to how you want to handle that. Again, I've carried all my M&Ps. I've never had any issues with them at all. They've all done very, very well in regards to carrying concealed. In regards to some of the features, real basic stuff. Again, you have your takedown lever, you have your slide release, slide lock. Supposedly it is ambidextrous. I don't know if I really believe that, and I'll show you why. So you lock the slide back here. Again, here's my right thumb. No issues. It drops right in the battery. Again, here's the other side of it. Not very good. It's almost impossible to move. So while it may be an ambidextrous feature, I don't know if it's actually a functional feature. And that is something I've seen on my other M&Ps as well. So sometimes, they advertise it as ambidextrous, and then sometimes it really isn't. And I've seen that on a couple of handguns, P10, that have a difficulty in actually dropping that slide on the other side. Again, you can always switch out the sides with the mag release, so you can make this to the left-handed person. But again, if you are a lefty, you're going to have some difficulty dropping the slide on that. But that's just what I found on this handgun, although it doesn't affect me because I'm not left-handed. Now, in regards to the internals of the handgun, there really isn't much to look at. If you've seen one M&P, you've seen them all. Again, you have your full-size captured recoil spring with your steel guide rod. So that's actually a nice feature. A lot of times you don't get that steel guide rod. Again, everything looks really nice on the inside, very nice and polished. No machining marks, no tooling marks, so it looks very, very clean. Again, the manufacturing of these handguns is very, very good. You can see that you have your little slide serrations here, which, again, I don't know if they're really functional. I think it's more aesthetic for, people who wanted to see some front serrations. Could you use it for press checking? You could, but you could also use the front right here where, again, it bevels in there. But again, that's if you're into press checking, which I'm not. The rear serrations are very good, very, not overly aggressive, but not too smooth. They probably could have cut them out a little bit more for a little bit more aggressiveness. Definitely in the rear, they are a deep cut, whereas they get a little bit less towards the front. So, overall, it is definitely usable to rack the slide. So I have had no issues with that either. Overall, the M&P 45 is a good gun. if it's anything like my other two, I see myself really, really enjoying shooting this, especially with the larger caliber round. Now, again, I'm going to be shooting this pretty soon, so I can't wait to show you the range footage and kind of give you my final thoughts about what I thought about this handgun. I've shot 45s before. It's never been my caliber of choice, but when I saw the deal, I couldn't resist. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Tell me what you think about the M&P 45. Again, this is a 5-inch slide, so it's a full-size gun. It's got a nice full-size grip. Again, once you put the magazine in, your support hand fits just really, really nicely on the bottom of that lip, and it really does feel very good in the hand. Just on a last note, one thing I did notice, which is not necessarily a surprise, is that the diameter of the grip is actually a little bit wider than the 9mm, which again should not be a surprise, being the fact that it is a bigger magazine and some bigger rounds in there. And interestingly enough, this is actually a small grip, and on both my 9s I have medium grips. So that's just something for you to be aware of if you choose to go this route. You can obviously manage the grip size with the back straps. So again, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Tell me what you think about the M&P. Tell me if you own the 45, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and if you'd be into maybe changing out that trigger for an Apex. So again, let us know down below in the comment section. If you like the video, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down, no problem. And we'll be following up pretty soon with the shooting. I can't wait to go to the range tomorrow, guys. So I hope you have a great night. Stay safe. And as always, freedom is never free.